All right. Good, whatever it is, morning, afternoon, evening, late night, midnight, whatever it is. So I wanted to go over the OpenPuff assignment. So in your lab simulation, you do something similar to this. We are going to have you do this on your own computer or in your own copy of Windows 10 running inside a VirtualBox. So because I need to record it, I'm actually running this natively on this computer, but you are certainly welcome to install it inside and run this completely inside a VirtualBox. If you're on a Mac computer, that might be a way to do that also to make this usable. So the instructions I've put up over here, make that a little bigger. So we're doing the following along with this assignment, and we're going to use something called OpenPuff. So this OpenPuff will allow us to embed content inside of some other object. So the first thing we really need to do is we need to figure out how to download it. And their website is not exactly truly user-friendly, but the program is pretty useful and exciting. So I'm going to click this download binary for Windows. Now, I admire that this project does or would like you to pay for that, and I have actually paid a couple of times to different projects, including this one. However, we're going to just, for educational uses, just grab this direct link. And so, thank you guys that are creating that. We appreciate it. And if you decide to use this for other purposes, I would encourage you to think about going ahead and contributing. And many other open source projects are the same way. I would encourage that if you're going to utilize their resources. So the first thing, we've downloaded it, but we now need to get a screenshot of this program. So we're going to do a screenshot that's going to be utilized in here. So just take a look at this. I'm going to use Snippy. And I'm just going to grab, this ought to be a really big, oh, hang on, new. And I want to do, let's do a full screen. Chunk. All right, so I've got this, and I'm going to then save this, and I'm going to save it somewhere where I know where it's at. So I'm going to go into my Documents folder, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to say I want to create a new folder. And so inside my Documents, I'm going to create a folder called OpenPuff. Now, that's not truly as important as just making sure that you know where this is at. So OpenPuff, and I'm going to call this Capture 1. Now, what this says to do is save it as a JPEG. And this says, oh, I need to point this pull down. And a JPEG is a really great way to store information. It compresses it. And the way it compresses it, it leaves these little holes. So we're going to use those holes to add our information to. So I'm going to click Save. So now, my Documents, OpenPuff, I have a file. And I can verify that really quickly. And I can go to Documents, OpenPuff, and I have a file. And in fact, I'm going to go to Properties here and see if I can get some information about it. So it tells me that it's 5,700 pixels by 2,100 pixels. So it gives me a height and a width. So hopefully this one will be big enough to do what we're going to do. So I'm going to tuck that away in the back. So I next need to really look at OpenPuff and find out where it's at. So I'm going to go back to that file directory, and I'm going to go over here to my downloads, and I see that on top of all this other junk I have in my downloads, I see OpenPuff, but I see the zipper, which tells me it's a compressed folder. So the first thing I'm going to do is click Extract All. Let's have it put it in exactly the same spot. And it's going to quickly uncompress that. So now if I go back to Documents, Downloads, I should see OpenPuff. Well, that's not a really handy place for it, so I think I'm going to throw it over into Documents. So I've got a place for it to go. All right. And now I look at OpenPuff, this release that I've got, and when I oh, that's mine. Hang on. So, and a couple of times I go in there, I notice that now I have a lot of files on here. This is interesting in that it runs once I extract it simply by clicking on the Run file, and this is OpenPuff. That's not very hard. It just ran on here. I do have to extract those, or otherwise it doesn't know how to run. All right, so the next step in here on OpenPuff, so it says, hey, we've uncompressed it, is we need to create a secret message. So we're just going to do a text message, so we're going to do Notepad. So I know we're opening up a lot of stuff on here, so that's why I wanted to record this and give everybody kind of a heads up, easy way to do it. So I'm just going to add a message in here. This is my secret message I will embed in a picture. So putting my name on it. And now I need to save this somewhere that I know where it's going to be. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to go to Save As. And I'm going to go back to my documents, and I'm going to use this OpenPuff folder I created. And I'm going to save it here as, they call it message.txt. Well, it's already going to make that a text file, so there I've saved this text file. So my next step, it says that I want to, well, I scroll only the right page here, it says create a zip file So it says to create a zip file, and I want to figure out where I'm going to put that. So send to and select compressed. So I'm going to go back out here to my documents, back into my OpenPuff folder, and this message, I'm going to also create it as a zipped folder. So I'm going to click the send to. Now, you could have other applications that also work really, really well, but here I'm just going to say I'm going to create an zipped copy of it. And so the difference, if you look at it, so here we're 67 bytes. Here it compresses it. And weirdly, because of the size of that original file, it's actually larger. Shouldn't be that way, but small things sometimes will happen that way. All right. So now we want to open puff.exe. So the other thing I'm going to do, so here's my OpenPuff. So one of the things that as we kind of read through here, so enter them into cryptography A, B, and C, show that the scrambling password. All right. I am also going to open up another copy of Notepad because my brain gets soft and mushy sometimes. And I want to hide something, so I'm going to click this. So, hide. So, there's a lot of different pieces in here that we need to look at. So, the first thing I need to do are 3 passwords up here. The passwords have some restrictions, so they have to be 8 characters, a max of 32. So, it actually says, I know I need to use 3 different passwords. So I'm just going to store them here so I don't forget. So Snow White 2022. And in fact, if you'll notice, I'm falling into a bad habit. I have the passwords up in front and then the number after them. So I'll make actually a really good password there. And because I'm just copying and pasting them out of here, I could even use a password tool. But so I'm actually going to then copy and paste them one at a time. So that is A. Then I'm going to copy B. And I'm going to copy C. So, all right. And when this turns green, it says, all right, those passwords are all good enough for us to use. So the next piece I need is I need to find this carrier. So the carrier is the file we are going to put this into. And so in this case, I'm going to add a file. So I'm going to click Add. Go thing. There we go. A little bit faster. All right. So I'm going to go back to my folder. And here's that JPEG file I called Capture One. So I'm going to use it as my carrier. So in other words, that's where that by embedded stuff is going to be. Now, we're doing it in one file. What can really be interesting is you can actually put this inside of multiple files. And so here it'll say it's not used, but you can have, so you've already got 3 passwords. You can put this inside of like 7 different files. And notice we can do all different kinds of files in here, different types of audio files, you can do video files, all different kinds of things. The next one is our target. And our target is what we want to hide. So I'm going to grab this message. And it's going to tell me what its size is. All right. So green, green. This looks like it should work. So my bit selection, I can pretty much say, all right, I know I need something over in JPEG. All right. But it will also auto-select based on what kind of pieces are here. So I can just leave that alone for now, and I can click this one called Hide Data. Now, it's going to grind away a little bit. And I'm trying to record on this computer, which makes it really a little slow as we do this. And where do I want to put that folder? So I think, just because I can put it there, I'm going to put it inside of my Pictures folder. So it's in a different place so I can see that. I'm going to click OK. And now it's actually grinding away, finding those empty spaces and places to hide that original file inside of my picture file. All right, done. So I'm going to tuck this away. It's going to finally say, all right. So it gives me a little, says, hey, we managed to do that. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to look. So in Pictures, I'm going to have an item that just got created today somewhere in here. So Capture One. And if I view it, so looks like the same picture. Nothing looks any different. And yes, I do have a lot of monitors and various drag. All right. So I'm actually going to look at the size on it. So I'm going to go to Properties, and it's 1,094,982 bytes. And this is the one that's got the information in it. So I think I'm going to change the name just so I don't forget. Now, obviously, in real life, when you're trying to send your your secret battle codes, you wouldn't do this. With data. So, just so I know which one is it. All right. My original then, so if I go back to OpenPuff, my original one, if I look at it, and I look at properties, it's very slightly different in size, if I remember those, but not enough that you would typically notice it. And actually, what I probably did was when I changed the name, I actually changed that just enough to make those different. But the details, if I look at them, the picture size doesn't change. In this case, it doesn't tell me a whole lot about it because it doesn't come off of my camera, for example, but I have this second file here. So to get that message back out, so I'm going to have to take OpenPuff, and in this case, I'm going to close it. And now I want to unhide. And notice there's a lot of other pieces in here. We're not going to use those right yet. So I want to unhide a file that I know where it's at. So I'm going to add a carrier. And that carrier is my second file, the one that I've modified. Come on. There we go. All right. So I put that under Pictures. And we should see it here, capture one with data. All right. And so it's going to add that back in. So it's loading that file up. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over here and start putting in my passwords. So this is why I say I put them in another screen so that I can see them very easily. And then password 2. And then finally, password 3. All right. So the green doesn't tell me that those are actually the right passwords, just that they hit their minimum requirements for this password. And so I have a file here, and I'm going to click Unhide. And as my poor overworked computer here says, well, I'm going to put it in that same folder as my file. I'm going to put it in Pictures. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to chew away on a little bit. Or a lot bit. One of one carrier processed. And again, we can make this more complicated because you could put in multiple carriers. So now it's pulled up a new thing called message right here. So it pulled that file out and said, this is my secret message I will embed in a picture. So I could send you, for example, I could hide some extra credit points for your final inside of a picture or inside of a sound file or something. And if I gave you those 3 passwords, you would be able to get that data back. So, what do I need for you to send for me so that I can see you've done this? All right. What I would like you to do is at some point in here, take a screenshot. So the snip or however you want to do a screenshot. I like using Snippy, although they're changing it a little bit, to show that, hey, I've captured it, I've got data, and I've come back. So a good one would be here, showing that running, and maybe like here. So you could take a screenshot of that and show that I'm getting my data back, and I'm getting it. I don't need you to do every single step along the way. I've shown you how to do that. But this is kind of fun. So you can also put them, if you notice in here, MPEG files, MP4, videos, really high, easy to hide data in a lot of these formats. So the one problem you may have, and this is one I've come across a couple times in this experiment with students, is when you take a screenshot and you save it as a JPEG, it may not be very big. And you'll get green for all your passwords. And when you go click to hide that file, it'll say carrier's not big enough. So there are a couple of ways you can do that. One, you can just go to your sample pictures and use something in there or a picture you've used that's a much bigger picture than just doing a screenshot. If it's not over a byte, and I'm amazed that this actually tucks in there because I figured it would cause a little bit of an issue being as small as it is. So you can do that. You can actually put it onto multiple files. Now that gets a little trickier. You're going to add multiple carriers, but that's really the only issue I've had other than forgetting those passwords, and that's why I like to throw things up in a notepad here just so I know what those passwords are. If you forget those passwords, this is actually tough enough. You will not get the data back. So this is kind of an interesting way to hide data in content. So if terrorists are doing it, it's bad. If it's us hiding our Bitcoin data, it's actually a really great thing. All right. Good luck and good hiding inside of pictures and other objects.